Why did that not work? Right, I'm gonna have to do that again.
My
It didn't go
bad.
live. Right. Apologies for everyone who is waiting. Welcome to Movie Mind. My name is Pedro. This is Jesse. Jesse, say hello.
Hello.
Uh,
How's it going, guys?
I just did an entire intro and the thing wasn't live, which pissed me off. Uh, Hang on, let me mute that. And so, yeah, I'm just going to give a quick intro to Jesse. Jesse is a co-worker with me in CEX, and he, as you can tell by his username, he's obnoxious Gen Z letterbox user or co-worker. Jesse is from Scotland, but he grew up in Southeast Asia, and he has some memories that he wants to talk about seeing films in, what was it, like Thailand or something like that?
Yeah, so it was Thailand
Yeah,
for 5 years and then Indonesia for 2 years after that.
yeah.
And there's some little anecdotes about like the cinemas there that I kind of want to go into, but we'll do that later on.
We'll do that in a bit. So yeah, like I was saying, if you saw the first episode of this with Tim, me and Tim had a very kind of balanced view of films and stuff. We kind of like the same sort of stuff, but me and Jesse have a very opposite end of um like balance when it comes to cinema. I'm more of a genre fan, and we're going to find out that Jesse seems to be more of a art housey indie sort of guy. But luckily for Jesse, I know a fair bit about indie art house movies as well. So
Yeah.
we're going to get into it. This is 10 questions, movie mind with Pedro's movie Cavern. Everybody, hold on to your hats because this is going to be a bumpy ride. So, question number one: where did your love of cinema come from? Was it a specific movie, scene, or influence?
Awesome. So there's a couple of things I've got written down here because I was thinking about it. I still consider myself to be relatively new to being a big cinema fan. I've enjoyed the art form, obviously enough that I use Letterboxd more than most apps, unfortunately. But there's still so much stuff I haven't seen out there. So the earliest film that I can remember being like, how is this working? This is so cool. And this isn't an indie film or anything like that. It's Dark Knight. Particularly Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight. The whole film is great. Aaron Eckhart's underrated. It's, in my opinion, Christopher Nolan's best film. But when I watched The Dark Knight, I remember this is when I was still living in Scotland. I remember it come out in the cinema. I'd loved Batman. My favorite film was Batman and Robin at the time. And I remember asking my dad, "Can I go see a new Batman film?" And he was like, "No, you can't." So I had to wait for my dad to buy the DVD and then watch it when he wasn't in. But yeah, that whole film and just how you can take something as like seemingly goofy and obviously a childhood symbol that is Batman and put him in this what is effectively a gritty crime thriller with some of the fucking coolest action scenes you've ever seen. The truck flipping over is always what I think about when I think about the action in The Dark Knight. But I'd say that was a core one, especially because what it led to me doing at quite a young age was going online, finding IMDb, and then finding that top 250 list, and then going to my dad and being like, "Hey, all these great movies, can I watch them?" And he's like, "Yes, yes, no, no, definitely not, yes." And it was, kind of going from there. Eventually, I'd stumble into what I think most boys my age do originally, and that's Quentin Tarantino, who I know you said is your favorite director. Uh, and that is awesome because I love Tarantino as well. There are Tarantino questions I actually have for you towards the back end of this, if that's okay. But I told you the story in work about, again, I really wanted to watch Django Unchained, but my
Yeah.
dad was like, "No, you're not doing that." So I faked sick to stay home from school that day just to watch this movie. And obviously, there was the appeal of it being like, "Oh, I'm not allowed to be watching this," but it's also such a fun movie about pretty horrible realities. I just found like the sort of like juxtaposition of those two to be like really effective in a way that's like, oh, you can take these dark aspects of humanity like slavery, like the Antebellum South, and make it into a fun action movie. I think that's awesome. I think I love films that do that. And then the last sort of one that I wanted to talk about, I guess, is more relevant to my like more modern film tastes, and that is a horror film called Martyrs. Have you seen it?
I have, yes.
It's quite a tough watch. It's pretty fucked up. I can't lie. Uh, but I'd always kind of been interested in horror because this is what I was talking about earlier with the differences in the cinema from here and in Thailand in particular. In this case, it's that if you go to see like I don't know what's played right now, like the average Marvel movie, you're going to see a couple of Disney ads, you're going to see a couple of like PG-13 action films like The Rock or Tom Cruise or anything like that. But it's always going to be age bracketed. And that doesn't exist in Thailand. That does not exist. You can go, and I know this to be true because I remember it very distinctly. You can go and watch Despicable Me 2 and see the trailer for The Conjuring with your entire family, and that scared the fucking shit out of me as a kid. As like an earliest exposure to horror goes, it would have been that trailer and like literally like doing this into the seat because it was the scariest thing ever. And I had this like built up fear of horror movies, just kind of like growing up. And then I would Google like, oh, scariest horror movies, most disturbing horror movies. And I watched Martyrs, and yeah, as far as like extreme cinema goes, and genre films going as far as possible, I think Martyrs was kind of like my introduction to films like that. It got me into the artsier side of horror, but also just more into like broader European cinema. Like, I would later find Michael Haneke, who is one of my favorite directors of all time. I did a video essay on his film Funny Games, the
Yeah.
remake, which I'll plug later on if you don't mind.
Yeah.
But Martyrs was one of those films that to me was like so like viscerally effective that it just spawned an interest in finding these more niche hidden gem films that really get to me. And that's kind of what my taste sort of evolved out of. At least that's what I think it did.
No, that's really interesting. The interesting thing about that is you were talking about how you pretended to be ill to stay home and watch Django Unchained. I
Yes.
did the exact same thing with From Dusk Till Dawn.
Fantastic.
I was told I wasn't allowed to watch it, and I was like, "Oh, I don't feel very well." Mum and Dad went to work. I snuck downstairs and I watched a hyper violent Mexican vampire movie, and I
Right.
loved every second of it.
It's what it's kind of done is I feel like it's a golden rule. If you tell a child you can't do this, it's just
Yeah,
going to make them want to do it.
yeah,
So it's sort of like changed my approach to. I would like to think I would evolve into the cool dad that lets their kids watch what they want because at the end of the day, these things they are movies. It's important to understand they're not real, but it's also important to understand why they make you feel the way you do. Like why is a film that is so like violent, so just appealing to us as an audience. And I think when you watch that from the brain of a 12-year-old, considering Tarantino himself said that Kill Bill is for 12-year-olds as well,
yeah.
I just think it's something that more parents should be like relaxed about. Like I watched these movies and I didn't turn out to be some horrible person. Promise.
No, I mean, for me, it was my parents were always quite strict when it came to age ratings on films and stuff, which is why
Mm,
I snuck down, like pretended to be ill to watch From Dusk Till Dawn. I was like 17 before I saw RoboCop,
mm,
and like they were very touchy when it came to a lot of violence and stuff. So when I did
mm,
finally watch things like RoboCop and From Dusk Till Dawn and Reservoir Dogs, which isn't even remotely as violent as people make it out to be, um, you kind of find yourself getting desensitized to screen violence, and which
valid.
means you can then kind of watch anything. And I did the whole French New Wave horror scene with
Mm,
Frontiers and Martyrs and Cavern and all the really, really brutal European horror of like the early 2000s. I went through all that. I watched them all. And now, maybe like 15 years later, they don't really do anything for me anymore. I've kind of moved away from horror. I was big into horror for a long time. But now
mm.
I unless it's like Evil Dead 2 or Army of Darkness, I'm not really bothered by horror movies.
You're gonna hate me for it, but I've still not watched the Evil Dead films. Like with the exception of the one that came in the cinema recently, which I thought was whatever, it was all right. It's like a blind spot for me. A lot of like old horror classics are like just not films I've seen. Try to think of like. a big example. Like The Thing. I haven't seen The Thing. I know I should definitely watch The Thing.
You should
So I'll
definitely
get
watch
on
The
that.
Thing.
No, I know, I know.
If you
Hope
watch
the
only
comments
one
just
John
people.
Carpenter movie, make sure it's The Thing.
I will do that. I will make sure to do that.
Cool. So we will move to the next question. What genre or subgenre do you feel is underrated or underappreciated?
So kind of just leading off of what I was saying about Martyrs, I do think, and with a major caveat here, I do think that people should explore films that are, they get like the disturbing tag kind of thrown onto them, regardless of the genre that they exist within. I do think that there is intrinsic value to seeking out films that you know are going to make you deal with uncomfortable subject matter. They're going to make you deal with some of the more horrible aspects of real life. I say major caveat because within the whole disturbing movie scene, there's so much films that just fucking suck. Like, for every August Underground or a Serbian film or any of these, you can find within that a film that might be really tough, but ultimately has something to say, is going to stick with you beyond just, oh my God, that was so hard to watch. If I was to think of an example off the top of my head, I think Funny Games would be a recommendation as a sort of horror film that is taking the sort of like traditional home invasion format, but obviously not to give away too much about Funny Games, plays on that genre and the conventions of it in a way that the audience is very much a willing participant in, and you have to actively deal with that as a concept. And I think that there are films that once you get to know that a lot of people had these reactions to them, you just have a certain intrigue in them. A film I watched this year was called Lilia Forever. It's
Yeah,
a Russian Swedish drama by Lucas
Lucas
Moodysson, I think his
Moodysson.
name
Yeah,
is. And that was absolutely heart wrenching and proper devastating to watch. But it wasn't a horror film or anything like that. It was more to do with the aspects of life that are very much real. We just don't want to think about.
yeah,
But I think in what is relatively safe entertainment, I think it's a very good way to get people thinking about these subject matters in a way that is both going to A, give them a good cinematic experience, but B, is going to leave a more personal impact on them. Uh, but the other thing I was just going to say is if disturbing is too broad of a label, I really like chamber piece movies and like bottled like episodes in TV.
mm,
For TV, there's loads. I could Fly, Breaking Bad, Chicanery, Better Call Saul,
yeah,
a couple episodes of BoJack kind of follow the same format. But in terms of movies, Reservoir Dogs, just to link back to Tarantino, that's my favorite Tarantino film. And I think it almost entirely is dependent on that insular setting. Obviously, you get a couple of breaks away from it in the film, but
yeah.
ultimately, the tension of that film is enhanced massively by the fact it's only in one setting. But more recently, Begonia has just coming out, and I didn't know that it was going to be in that style. I didn't watch the original movie, but I thought Begonia, for similar reasons to Reservoir Dogs or 12 Angry Men, that contained setting, it really just added an extra layer of both immersion and also just intrigue into the films. So those would be like the two like genre tags I would say are like kind of underlooked or
Yeah.
underappreciated in certain regards.
I mean, it's when you think you would talk about Reservoir Dogs being set in one location and Begonia being essentially set in one location.
Mm.
It must be really, really difficult to write a film set in a location and not technically move from that location, which is why I think we don't
Yeah.
see a huge amount of single location films. I mean, it's different with bottle episodes of TV shows because they've only got to last 47 to 52 minutes. They don't have to run a
Mm.
full like hour and a half and something. And
They're often more cost effective for budgetary
yeah,
reasons as well. Like I'm pretty sure
Fly.
Fly only exists because of that. Yeah.
Yeah, but Fly was it directed by Ryan Johnson or did he write it as well, or was it just Vince Gilligan?
I don't know if it was written by him. It definitely was
It was
directed by
definitely
him.
directed by
So
him.
for a while, he sort of held the record on IMDb. I think he actually probably still does. Of he
Yeah.
had the highest rated episode with Ozymandias. Then he
Mm.
had the dead last episode of Fly. But Fly has obviously gotten like a massive like reappraisal in recent years. I think it's one of the best episodes of the show. I think it's one of the best. I think it might be the best episode of season 3. It's fantastic, and the amount of insight it gives you into the character of the show that by that point you're already pretty invested in, but it starts to really break him down. It adds an entirely new emotional weight to this sort of arc and trajectory that you see in the rest of the show. And like you were saying with a movie, there's an additional challenge of you've got the pre-expectation of it. It doesn't come as a surprise. You've established that you want to make a film like this. Due to whatever reason, you've decided you want to make a film like this. How the fuck are you going to make it work? And I don't know, but there's just certain films that just have the sauce to make it work. I think 12 Angry Men will kind of always be the gold standard for it. It's one of those old movies that I don't really watch movies made before the 90s. I can't lie. It's an embarrassment of me, I'm sure. But 12 Angry Men, just everything about that film is razor sharp, and it's all due to that writing. And that writing has the single constraint of just locking them in the courthouse.
Yeah, but I mean, like when you think of the writing of something like 12 Angry Men, it is a hour and a half to 2 hour movie of just dialogue.
Mhm.
Essentially,
And it's razor sharp, and every
is.
single line, like even like one of my favorite scenes in the film is just when one of the guys says he don't even speak English good or something along those lines, and then the like Italian immigrant just corrects him on it. It's so sharp and it's just so spontaneous and just it's a fucking perfect movie. I can't lie.
That's really interesting. That is. Okay, so this one, with the state of cinema now, where do you think film is heading? Back to smaller movies, or more? Are we going to see more big budget flops?
So I think I think next year is really going to determine this, but I think we're kind of at a point uh, in the sort of culture that the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which I think is just the de facto poster child for the big
Yeah,
franchise IP film, it's on the decline. The quality has fluctuated massively. I know a lot of people actually quite like the last two, the Fantastic Four and Thunderbolts. I do want to watch them, but I lost interest in the MCU after Endgame. I think a lot of people did,
I think a lot of people dropped
but
off then.
it's notably declining. But then on the other hand, you have something like Doom, which I love. I love not so much part one. I think part one's a good, solid introductory film, but part two is fantastic. And Dune Part Three, Dune Messiah. I can't remember what they're going with. That's probably the most anticipated I've been for a movie in a long time, and it's because to me it feels the closest I've had to a sort of cinematic franchisey film. Take a Harry Potter or a Lord of the Rings, and it's felt my generation. Even going so far as to kind of alter the source material. I'm a big fan of the books. Even in its alterations, just to sort of modernize it a little bit more. I don't want to not have Dune. I very much want to have the massive spectacle, the high budget, the cast of God knows how many famous people, because the end product of Dune, when it's done by a director that is as good as Denis Villeneuve, is definitely my top 5. It could be spectacular. But with that being said, regardless of if the MCU falls off, regardless of whether Dune flops or whatever like that, you're never going to get rid of these. You're never going to. And I frankly don't want to either, because I think people have quite a dismal outlook on the cinema when in actuality things are pretty fucking great right now. You can go and see whatever Disney's putting out right now, be it a Pixar film, be it a Marvel film. You can go see that if that's what you want to do. But if you don't, you can't just complain that there's no good movies coming out, because that's just simply not true. The cinema, I've got like the unlimited card for Cineworld, and it's one of the best fucking investments I've ever made in my life, because I'm seeing so many different things I just probably wouldn't have actually bothered to watch if not for them playing in the cinema and me enjoying that experience so much. I think the best way for me to kind of like explain why I don't really worry about the state of cinema so much is One Battle After Another, which has just come out. I've been in the cinema 3 times to see it.
I know you did
It's an
say.
incredible movie. It is incredible. It is every single thing that I want out of a movie. It has the high budget action and the scale and the crowd pleasing elements, but the like succinction of the direction and just how meticulously crafted it is fantastic. And yeah, one battle after another could have been ignored for, I don't know, the Black Phone 2, if that's what I wanted to do. I could do that if I wanted to, but I've got the freedom to choose. And I think, again, sort of just relating back to when I lived abroad, when it comes to like overseas markets, they're not getting these independent films, or sometimes not even independent films, just these more alternative films in mainstream distribution cycles. I remember I was like 15 when Once Upon a Time in Hollywood came out. And the UK and the US had gotten it, and it'd been months, and I was in Jakarta. I was still waiting for it to come out just because it's not going to sell there. You know, it's just not going to sell there.
Mm.
But that makes sense. That's a foreign overseas market. In the UK, in the US, in Europe, you can go and see whatever you want. And I think people should embrace that more. People complain about cinemas dying, but when was the last time they went? When was the last time they went? You know?
Well, I haven't been in since Deadpool 2 came out. That was the last time. But I think
Did you have a good time? Did you have a good time in the cinema though? Did the experience of watching that movie in the cinema add to it?
No, not really, because it was packed.
Really?
Yeah. However, Mad Max Fury Road was
Okay.
probably the best experience I've ever had.
Wish I could say
suppose
the same.
when it comes
Fucked up my
to
screening of it.
when it comes to smaller movies, though, you've got to look at how those films, well, the budget those films have, and then the promo budget that they have, but then they also have to pay distribution to be able to get it put into cinemas.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
with something like One Battle After Another, even though it's big names attached, Paul Thomas Anderson, like, just, you told me it's a fantastic movie. I take your word for it. I like a majority of Paul Thomas Anderson's movies, but that film has flopped.
It has.
Yeah, but then also, like you said, the Black Phone 2 has also flopped.
Yeah. I
So
think
I don't think it's a case of going for like smaller budgeted movies are the way forward, or big budget movies are the way forward, because the main issue is people aren't going to the cinema.
yeah. But
And
I think that oh sorry, go on.
I think the main reason is because price hikes, obviously it's cinemas,
Hmm.
and streaming.
Yeah.
I think streaming is like, I use streaming a lot because I'm too lazy to get out of my chair and go to like that bookcase there to find a movie. So I'll use like Netflix or Disney Plus or Tubi or something like that.
Hmm.
But the one of the main reasons I don't go to the cinema anymore is not just the cost. It's because there's not a single film that comes out these days that I have any interest in watching. Like, not even like John Wick or anything like that. I love the John Wick movies. I will happily watch them sat at home on a big screen TV in 4K and enjoy it. Do I want to sit in a cinema with a load of people? Not particularly. And I don't want to pay the high price for that. So I think streaming is a massive issue when it comes to cinema now. But then also putting a budget of like 150 million on a Paul Thomas Anderson movie is absolutely fucking ridiculous.
Yeah. But it did happen. But it was
Yeah, it
made
did.
and it was fantastic. And I think that there is I see what you're saying about the cinema in terms of the price angle, especially compared to what streaming can offer.
Yeah.
Like I just started with my girlfriend, Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, which I believe did get a release in cinemas for a
It was a
small while,
very limited
but
release.
it landed
Yeah.
on Netflix yesterday. And yeah, I mean, and that's an instance where no, I didn't make the effort to go and see it in a cinema. And especially with how quick movies do come out to streaming nowadays. Like I think the industry standard at this point has to be like a month. It can't possibly be long.
Hmm.
Um, But in terms of the experience of going to the cinema, as well as the choice of movies, that I guess we just disagree on. So
Hmm.
obviously, you said it's none of these movies look good to you, and that's completely fine. Obviously, everyone's
It's
entitled
not
to
that
their own
none of them look
taste.
good to me. It's that they
Mm.
don't generally appeal to me. I have a very specific like sense of what's the word for it? Like more modern
You're
movies.
looking for.
I think it's because of essentially Marvel basically
Mhm.
taking over the monopoly of cinema at the moment. I mean, there's a really interesting thing that Quentin Tarantino talked about when the Hateful Eight roadshow was coming out, and he wanted to show it in the Cinerama Dome, and it was out
Mhm.
in Christmas 2015 or 2016, something like that. No,
2015, I
2015 it
believe.
was,
It went up against
and
Force Awakens,
it
I
was
think.
against Force Awakens, and
Yeah.
Disney essentially blackmailed Cinerama to
Mm.
remove Hateful Eight and have Force Awakens play for the entirety of. So it's the fact that I don't like when greedy corporations like will shit on smaller people
Definitely.
to take over, and I think that's kind of what really put me off going to the cinema. And we haven't really got a sort of. I mean, we've got Picture House in Cardiff, down by the bay. I think it's called Picture
Chapter.
House.
Chapter as well in
Chapter,
Canton.
yeah, Chapter's like a 20-minute walk for me. It's not that far, but
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, I
Oh,
think
yeah.
with me collecting movies as well, it gives me a much broader choice when it comes to cinema. And I
No,
think that's probably
definitely.
why I just don't, because TVs are getting better, they're getting bigger. You can watch a movie on anything these days: a DVD player, Blu-ray player, Xbox, PlayStation, anything that plays a disc or a Blu-ray disc, you can watch a movie on, and it always looks better
Yeah.
than it looks in the cinema. But
I see that is where I will disagree with you on that because I
th-
think
so
the
there's a
fear
very big
of it.
difference between watching a digital print and watching a 35 millimeter print. Is a
Yes, I
very
agree with
big
that.
difference. 35 mm print is always gonna look better than a digital print on a cinema screen. Doesn't matter if it's gonna be a 4K, 8K, 12K projector or anything like that, because it's
Mhm.
not filmed on film. It's not filmed on 35 or 70, 65 or 70 mil. It's never going to have that same feeling. That I think that's one of the reasons why I don't go to the cinema anymore, is because it's digital projection. It's not film projection.
Yeah, I definitely understand why, in terms of quality of picture, if that is a very big deal for you, definitely can understand a home release over a generic cinema, like a chain cinema, I guess.
Yeah.
But to me, it's always going to be about spectacle. It's always going to be about the I have left my house to go and sit in a big open space in the dark just so I can laser focus myself on this movie. I've said to my friends before that I feel like if I watch a movie in the cinema, in order to get like a solid rating on it, I have to watch it again at home because there's always going to intrinsically add an additional point to me,
Yeah. No, that's
and
fair.
I I can understand why the sort of cinema going experience doesn't appeal to certain people. I've had my fair share of times where the actual fucking people in the cinema have driven me insane. Like when I went to see Saltburn a couple of years ago. Uh, Maybe the single worst experience in a cinema in my entire life. Everyone's on their phone. A person was making a TikTok at one fucking point. Um, and I want to understand because there's a disconnect there. Like people don't think it's really all that serious. Everyone's come just to have fun and all that. But in actuality, no, people have come here to watch a movie. Fortunately, the movie ended up being shit anyway, so I didn't really lose much there. But I want to see when Dune Part Two came out. I want to see it in cinema with my friend, and some fucking wee prick at the back. He had a laser pointer out, and he was
Oh.
just like scanning it over the screen. And it's like I wish cinemas were a bit more rigid in their enforcement of like
Mm.
standards because people they're not cheap anymore. I don't know if they
No.
ever have been cheap. Frankly, I've never known them to be cheap. But people pay serious money to go to the cinema. That's a couple of meals that they're paying just to watch a movie.
Yeah.
Don't fucking ruin it for people. So if that's something that is going to majorly impact going to the cinema for you, I'm fully understand that. There have been
Yeah.
a couple of times where I've just been like, that's it. I'm just going to wait for it to come out because everyone's going to behave like a fucking animal in the cinema. I don't want to deal with it. So,
Right. I was going to look at some comments. We've got one. This is Acres of Movie. This is Stacy. She asks very odd questions all the
okay.
time.
I love
She's
questions.
asked, "What is your favorite misunderstanding scene in a comedy movie?" Don't even attempt to answer that.
Misunderstanding.
Yeah, favorite John
Favorite John
Travolta performance.
Battlefield Earth.
Oh,
Easily.
fuck off.
Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, I'd say Pulp Fiction, or maybe I love Pulp Fiction, but he made a movie called From Paris with Love, where he played a
Okay.
character called Charlie Wax, and that might very well be my favorite unhinged John Travolta performance.
I was gonna
Uh,
say if not Pulp Fiction, almost a Pitch Perfect.
yeah,
If not Pulp Fiction, I'd say Face Off. Just
yeah,
because you've
Face
got the
Off.
whole concept. John Travolta's trying to be Nick Cage. Nick Cage is trying to be John Travolta. It's fantastic.
And then we have Jim. Jim's a mate from America. Me and him normally do uh, a live stream on a Monday with my other friend Ollie, and he's taking a break from posting stuff at the moment. He says, "Hello, Pete, Jay, Stacy, and everyone in the chat. Hope all is well with you." And then he says, "What's your favorite and least favorite film from this year so far?"
You want to go first?
Least favorite film. Oh, let me open my letterboxd. I haven't watched a huge amount of stuff from this year.
I have a pretty clear choice for favorite, if that's not been made apparent already. Least
Yeah,
favorite.
the one you saw
Least
three
favorite. I've got
times.
two options. That is true. 3 times. I'll admit that 3 times is excessive. I've got a lot of free time at the moment. It's not good
Let's
really.
have a look. All right, my diary.
Worst movie of the year.
Ooh, right. Worst movie of the year so far. Oh, there's two.
Let's hear it.
The Old Guard 2, which is a
Okay.
Netflix movie with Charlize Theron and Uma Thurman. Absolutely fucking terrible. The first one's really good and a lot of fun. The second one's
The Old
absolutely
Guard, you said.
The Old
The Old
Guard.
Guard?
Yeah.
Right. Just gonna
And
see if
the
I'm
other one,
familiar with
and
this.
this really, really like kind of upset me because I was expecting it to be very good, is Play Dirty with Mark Wahlberg, because it's based on a novel by a screenwriter who wrote a character called Parker, and he made this movie called Parker's been played by multiple different actors in multiple different films since the 1960s. It was Lee Marvin in Point Blank, then it was Robert Duvall in The Outfit, Peter Coyote in Slayground. Mel Gibson played him in what the fuck, Payback, and I think it
Gotcha.
was Jim Brown may have played him in another one. I always forget that one. And Jason Statham played it, but the character itself is like a hardcore like crime, like he's a thief.
Yeah.
And the books are really, really, really good. I've got the full graphic novel like compendium of all of them. Absolutely fantastic. And what makes this film really, really sad is because it's written and directed by Shane Black.
Kiss, kiss, bang, bang.
Kiss
That
Kiss
guy.
Bang Bang, The Nice
Yeah.
Guys, the Lethal Weapon, like, and
Oh,
it's
right.
fucking awful. So yeah, that's probably the worst film I've seen this year.
It always sucks in particular when you're already a
Yes.
fan of the guy and then it fucks
Um,
up. So for worst film, I've got like two sort of half answers, which is weird here.
yeah, cool.
The first one is the only film that's pissed me off enough where I was like, I stopped watching it because I was like, I don't want to actually just waste my time being annoyed. And that's Eddington by Ari Aster, which sucks because I, for the longest time, was like the biggest Ari Aster dick rider on the planet. I thought he could do no wrong. Beau is Afraid was fantastic. I love Beau Afraid. And then Hereditary and Midsummer. I don't know if you can call them classics, but at the very least of my generation, they're like embedded into like our sort of like canon of films, especially horror
Yeah.
films. So he comes out with this like COVID western. And it's got all these actors in it that I love. It's got Joaquin Phoenix, it's got Emma Stone, it's got Austin Butler, Pedro Pascal. There's really no reason I should dislike this. It's going straight after America and their fucking wacko-brained conspiracy politics. But it's so annoying. It's so obnoxious. It is the most Twitter movie in how everyone speaks and how everyone is reduced down to like the most generic of stereotypes. Some of them are feel genuinely just mean spirited as well, as in I understand the ultimate root message of where you're coming from here, or at least from what I got so far into the film. But there are some things that you've put in here that really make me question, are you doing like a both sides are crazy thing here? Because if you do, you're not substantiating that enough. If you're just trying to take like a general outlook of things, why go and litter it with so many like 2020isms? You know,
Yeah.
it just really annoyed me. And maybe it's something that it's designed to do, and if I stuck with it long enough, it would reveal itself to be quite good. But you know, I got halfway in and I was like, "This is fucking stupid. I'm getting this off." Uh, the other one's War of the Worlds, but like,
I haven't even
I had
attempted. I
fun.
haven't even pressed play on that.
It's fun. Like, you know, it's obviously not good. It's obviously atrocious. I don't think. When I watched it, I logged it on Letterboxd to be like, "Oh, first 0 out of 10 I've ever seen." It doesn't even. It's not even good bad. Then the more I thought about it, the more I rewatched some of like the terrible like Ice Cube reaction clips from that film, the more I was like, "This is a memorable piece of shit. This is like an essential release to 2025, if that makes sense. It's not good, but it's definitely memorable.
Yeah.
So
From what I
if you want to
gather,
laugh,
from what I gathered with War of the Worlds, the
mm,
whole thing was shot during COVID lockdown.
yeah.
And from the trailer, you can fucking tell.
Do you know about the
Favorite,
whole Amazon angle to it?
favorite films of the year so far. Um, this is a. I've seen a fair few that are quite good standouts, but I wouldn't say are favorites. Ones that I've really enjoyed and that have surprised me. Happy Gilmore 2 was a lot of
I
fun. I
remember you
really
raving
enjoyed.
about it. Yeah.
I really enjoyed that one. But I'd probably say the biggest standouts for me this year so far have been K-pop Demon Hunters and Heart
Hmm.
Eyes
I
and
find it
Novocaine.
very interesting that. Can I hear what about K-pop Demon Hunters did you like about it? Because I watched it recently, and I'm just curious as to what your take is on it.
I just thought it was fun. It was the first time in a long time I've watched a movie, an animated movie that didn't try to push something and just had a lot of fun.
Okay, that's fair
I
enough.
thought the music was really good as well. I'm not into K-pop, but I thought the music
Right.
was really catchy. I thought the animation was absolutely stunning. I
The
just thought it was a
animation's
fun movie.
I liked it. At the very least, I liked it a little bit. I had fun with it. I think it's got ultimately a good message. Could really do with some fixing there, but ultimately a good, heartfelt message. The music I didn't like, but I'm not gonna hold that to the film. I don't know anything about K-pop, so it wouldn't feel right to judge it. I just felt a bit like I don't know. I think I'm just very much not the demographic for it, but
Yeah,
I'm a little bit. What kind of upsets me about that film is, and it's stupid to say because obviously when it comes to like Academy Awards and all stuff, it's all a bunch of garbage. But the fact that it's so clearly going to be the front line for best animated feature next year, when Naja 2 came out earlier this year in China, had a Western release with Michelle Yeoh in the English dub. And whilst that film on like a story or narrative is nothing special, it's probably about as good as K-pop Demon Hunters. The animation's fucking staggering. The animation's incredible,
yeah,
but I don't even think it's going to get a nomination. And best animated feature always tends to go the way I don't want it to anyway, so I can't really be too shocked about it. But it does feel like there's been this monumental achievement in animation that's happened on the other side of the planet, but we're ignoring it for something that is cool. It's fine. It's all right.
Well, I don't know, because last year's winner for best animated film was Flow.
Yeah, and that was a good pick. Like, let me make that one clear. Flow was a good pick. Personally, did you watch Memoir of a Snail?
No, I didn't get around to it.
Fantastic.
I've heard
Memoir of a
it's great though.
Snail was fantastic, but they seem to still have this hesitation on any R-rated or any 15-rated animated film getting that award.
Yeah,
Like about a decade ago, one of my favorite screenwriters, Charlie Kaufman, he did an animated film called Anomalisa, which is
yeah,
fantastic. And it was up against Inside Out, which is become something of a classic in recent years. So I don't really can't get too mad about it. But it seems like they really just want to push R-rated films to the bottom when in actuality animation when it's made for an adult audience can be some of the coolest shit you've ever seen. And Memoir of a Snail is one of the
yeah.
most touching movies that's been released in recent years. But
I'll
yeah.
have to check that out then. What else has he said? Let's have a look. Best John Travolta performance is either Pulp Fiction or Blowout, in my opinion. Good choice on Blowout, Jim. Fantastic movie.
I think everyone just associates him with Pete's favorite
Pete's
film is
favorite
28
film.
years later. See, I know
I
that. I know
forgot.
that's not true.
I didn't even but I didn't even add that on Letterboxd because I didn't even finish it. But what I watched was fucking awful.
My girlfriend said it was one of the worst things she's ever seen, which
Could not get through the
is
new Jurassic World movie or Ash. The worst movie I did get through this year was Naked Gun. I quite enjoyed Naked Gun. It was a silly movie.
see, I wanted to watch Ash because I'm a big fan. I was gonna say I'm a big fan of the director.
Flying Lotus.
Um, yeah, I like his music and I like his previous film Kuso quite a bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. Ash, I'd have to. I might still check it out. In Ari Aster film is annoying and obnoxious. You say no, right? It's. Can I just respond to this very quickly?
Yes.
I like Ari Aster being annoying and obnoxious in the absurd realms of his horror films that he takes. I just don't think he should have gone anywhere near anything else because I don't know, it really, really agitated me. I just thought it was incredibly it was like it was trying to get a reaction out of me, and fair enough, it did. I took the bait. But the the three previous films that he did are all just awesome horror movies. But yeah, no, I understand he is annoying and obnoxious, especially as
Yeah.
a person. Like his Criterion, he can be really funny, but like I can tell that I don't know
So
that I want to be on
what
a
I will
podcast
say
with Ari
is,
Aster.
with that comment from Jim, is that Jim is the only American that I know that understands the concept of sarcasm, and I will tell him that.
Really interesting.
Um, let's have a look. And The Long Walk, The Life of Chuck, and Sinners are Jim's three favorite movies of the year so far. I have had to listen to Jim talk about both The Long Walk and Life of Chuck for the last month and a half, every
I
Monday.
never caught Life of Chuck. The Long Walk was quite fun though. I had a lot of fun with it.
There you go. I understand sarcasm, you say. No. Haha. Okay, dokes. Right, let's crack on. Let me bring up the notes. Okie dokes. So, which filmmaker do you think is overrated, and which filmmaker do you think is slept on?
Yeah. Right. Overrated. I'm gonna say Edgar Wright. And
Okay.
I want to know how that sounds first.
No,
Like,
that.
so I want to so first of all, I think Hot Fuzz is fantastic. I think it
Yep.
is one of the best British action comedies ever. I still quote it. It's very good. And I particularly like The World's End. And I don't know why The World's End in particular sticks out to me. Was it you I was talking about? You
I
think it
think
is
so.
definitely dead last in the trilogy?
Yeah.
Or was that? I don't know. But I think Simon Pegg is probably at his best in that one. And I don't necessarily love the character he plays, but I think just what he brings to it is probably my favorite Simon Pegg performance. But then there's Shaun of the Dead, which I don't know if it just needs a rewatch. I don't know if because I was taken out of the UK for so long, the sort of like more British humor of it is just lost on me. It just doesn't appeal to me. But I really don't see a reason to watch it over something like Zombieland, if I'm being honest. I think it's got some cool visual moments. I can't take the emotional moments seriously. I don't know if that says more about me than the film. I guess that's why I'm saying overrated as opposed to bad, because I don't think you can call him a bad director. And the same would go for Baby Driver. I like the soundtrack of Baby Driver, but I just find it so, I don't know, it just feels a bit empty to me, if that makes sense. And then I just think Last Night in Soho is just plain bad. I just don't think it's a good movie. I just don't think it works. The Running Man is coming out. I might go see it, but there's like it, as it's being sold as like a new Edgar Wright movie, that doesn't really like say much to me personally. But yeah.
So when it comes to Edgar Wright, especially like in regards to Shaun of the Dead, specifically Shaun of the Dead, that movie is made off the back of Spaced, the TV show that he did for Channel 4.
Which I haven't seen.
So that's probably why it doesn't do a lot for you.
Okay.
Because the humor and the way it's shot and like Peg's performance, Nick Frost's performance, all essentially it's stuff that was moved from Spaced into feature film length.
Right, I see.
Hot Fuzz itself is a masterclass in every single line being a joke. And I don't think any film has ever come close to hitting so many comedy beats one after the other. I would suggest watching Spaced and then rewatching Shaun of the Dead.
Okay. It's quite short, right? He's only got a couple of episodes.
It is 10 episodes or...
Yeah.
I think it's 6 episodes per series. So it's 12 episodes. So there's only 2 series. And they're only 25 minutes long as well. But the basis of Shaun of the Dead was born in an episode of Spaced.
Right. Okay. I see.
Yeah. So
whereas the other two are wholly independent.
Yeah. So you get a sort of you get a sense of you kind of just I can't even get the words out now. You'll get a sense of where Shaun of the Dead is coming from if you watch Spaced. Like there's a lot of it is movie references as well from Simon Pegg, because he wrote it with Jessica Hines when she was Jessica Stevenson, and they work really, really well with each other as writers and as performers. And she plays Yvonne in Shaun of the Dead, and she pops up in that. However, in regards to The World's End, I really enjoy The World's End, but I do not like the character of Gary King.
Yeah. I think we did talk about this.
Yeah, I think it's the worst character that Pegg has played out of all 3 movies. Because he never... Like, Sean's lovable. Nicholas Angel is by the book until he's not by the book.
Yeah.
But Gary King never evolves from being an absolute twat. He's from the start, he's an asshole, and by the end, he's just a drunk asshole. There is no evolution for his character. There is no redemption. Whereas the redemption,
I think that might be why I like it, to be honest. Like how apathetic and nihilistic outlook of a British fucking Weatherspoons.
Yeah, I
can't lie.
I think that aspect of his character is the one thing that kind of lets that film down for me, because I like seeing. Obviously, Shaun of the Dead, he gets back with Liz. Hot Fuzz, he doesn't want to go to Sanford. He ends up wanting to stay in Sanford. In The World's End, he still just wants to have a drink. And I understand there's that whole thing that he tried to kill himself and he was in rehab and all that and his mental health. But I don't want that in one of the Cornetto movies. But I think the rest of the film itself, I think, is very funny. As for Scott Pilgrim is overhyped. Baby Driver is Baby Driver is again massively overhyped. It has one very good scene in it, and that is the chase scene at the beginning. I quite liked Last Night in Soho. I didn't like the ending, but I liked the build up
Okay.
towards it. And I'm intrigued by The Running Man because it's had some really, really, really positive reviews. And it looks
Yeah.
very different to the original Arnold Schwarzenegger version. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that how they differentiate. But and I'll give you this: Edgar Wright needs Simon Pegg.
But does Simon Pegg need Nick Frost? Because I'd argue he kind of does.
In a
Because
way,
I don't know,
yes.
is Nick Frost in Spaced as well, or is that just Simon Pegg?
Yeah, Nick Frost is the first thing Nick Frost was ever in. He wasn't an actor
Well,
before that.
that instantly kind of makes me appeal more because because he has a very minor role in the Mission Impossible movies, and those are kind of the only time
So
where
in
I don't know he works for me.
Mission Impossible 3 was the first one he was in, and he was kind of like a background, not a background character. He was a
Yeah,
super, super, super support character. He was the guy in the chair, as they say in the Spider-Man movies.
yeah.
But from the fourth film, which was Ghost Protocol onwards, he becomes a main member of the Mission Impossible, well,
I
Impossible
always
Mission
think
Force.
about. I think it's in Fallout when he's the one that's actually in the mask and he's with
Yeah,
Henry Cavill's character.
yeah.
That's always the scene I go through. That's kind of like I guess that's probably where I like Simon Pegg the most when he's just kind of relegated to the background. But like I said, I haven't seen Spaced,
Hmm.
so I
So
definitely
I would
am open
highly
to giving it a
recommend
try.
watching Space.
No, I definitely will.
It's
Definitely will.
it's got a lot of very early performances from people who are classed as comedy legends now. So like
Oh,
David
there we go
Walliams is
then.
in it, Matt Lucas is in it, the League of Gentlemen guys are in it, Reece
All right.
Shearsmith is in it. Yeah, definitely worth watching. So, who do you think is underrated?
Right. So I
I think we had
first of
this
all the
conversation
contrast.
actually.
Yeah, first of all the contrast with me saying Edgar Wright is overrated is going to become immediately invalidated by who I'm about to say next. So I don't know if you could call him underrated because he definitely has a massive fan base and he's definitely influential. But the amount of people, and I know you're one of them as well, but the amount of people that really dislike Lars von Trier, when for me he is undeniably a bad person. I'll get that one out of the way as well. I don't like Lars von Trier, the guy, but I really do like a handful of his films. And I think it all kind of relates back to what I was saying earlier on about like the more disturbing, effective movies and them taking you to places that you don't really want to go necessarily. But I think the way he does it in a way that can feel so like artful in its presentation, only to then cut to something that's really like rough around the edges. He started the Dogma 95 movement with Thomas Vinterberg. I love it, and every time I watch a Lars von Trier movie, I always know there's going to be something in here that's going to stick out in my head. There's a handful of them that I don't like, but Melancholia, The House that Jack Built, Dancer in the Dark, and Antichrist, I think are all incredible films. There's still a handful of other ones by him that I'm still yet to see. Breaking the Waves, Dogville being the two, I think, biggest
Yeah.
outliers. And The Kingdom as well, which I watched the first episode of. I'll be working my way through that shortly. But yeah, I love Lars von Trier. I think I said to you, and I don't know who I stole this from, but he's almost like the Kanye West of cinema in that
Yeah.
the personality is so big that you're almost sort of forced to just pick a side. Do you love this guy or can you not fucking stand him? And again, I hate Kanye West as a person. I love his music to bits.
Yeah.
I hate Lars von Trier as a person. I think his films are fucking dope. So that would be my answer.
I can't really agree there.
I I
So I
suspected that you
I
would have something
admire
nice to say about the kingdom.
I admire like his process and
Mm,
like the sort of stuff that he has done as an independent filmmaker,
mhm.
especially the Dogma 95 stuff. Like I remember watching The Idiots when it first well, not when it first came out. I watched it on Film 4 years ago when it was Film 4 World, and Film 4 Extreme. These were channels on cable. And
Oh shit!
I watched The Idiots, and I was thinking, this is fucking awful. There is no story to this at all. But
It's not one of
there's
my.
no denying something like I hated Antichrist, but
Mm,
it's a gorgeously made film.
yeah.
Like, it looks incredible, so I can't take that away from Von Trier. Melancholia, I wasn't overly fussed on, but again, it's not that much of a gut punch film either. Well, it is,
Okay.
but it's
Yeah.
not like Antichrist is like shoving it in your face type of thing. Melancholia obviously is a lot more melancholy,
Yeah.
and it
Definitely.
has
Um.
decent performances from Kirsten Dunst and Kiefer Sutherland.
I Kirsten Dunst in that film is absolutely heartbreaking to
Mm.
watch. I think it's one of the best performances of
Yeah,
like was it 2011? So
yeah,
2010 is one of the best performances of that. But I ultimately it's a weird one with Lars von Trier because as much as I like him, as much as I would recommend his stuff, there's undeniably baggage there in that he is an acquired taste.
yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't think there's any supremacy in having that acquired taste or anything like that. But you know, sometimes you want to watch just a film. And he doesn't really do that. He doesn't really ever want to make just a film. Even The House that Jack Built is probably starts off as most normal, most like devoid of himself in it, with it just being like a serial killer thriller. But he can't resist. He can't resist throwing himself and his
Mm.
mood and all of that into the film. And to me, it enhances it. To me, that makes the satirical elements of that film even better. But a lot of people are just like, I don't care about this sad Danish man's, tearing himself apart. I don't care about that. Especially
Yeah,
because if you want a director that makes both incredible films that are also a lot more palpable, you've got Thomas Vinterberg. You have him right there.
yeah,
And they get put next to each other quite a lot because of where they both started with Dogma 95. But Thomas Vinterberg had the better Dogma film. And then The Hunt.
mm.
The Hunt's
Yeah.
incredible. I don't know if you've seen it, but The Hunt is
I
absolutely
have a copy
phenomenal.
of The Hunt somewhere.
He's devastating. He's absolutely devastating. Best Mads Mikkelsen performance, though, I would say.
I think I it's weird because I there are certain directors that I would lump in with Lars von Trier as ones that I don't really get their
Okay.
whole thing, which is the UK wise, we've got Michael Winterbottom and we've got Ben Wheatley. Ben Wheatley is probably less so in the same camp as Michael Winterbottom and Lars von Trier, but then also the
Mm.
other one is shit, what's his name? Um, who did Drive?
Nicholas Winding Refn.
Nicholas Winding Refn, yeah. So
Yeah.
I saw the first Pusher. I never watched the ones after that, and then I
Mm.
watched the god awful London gangster remake of Pusher, which was fucking awful. And
Incredible.
I liked Drive because Drive was originally going to be directed by Neil Marshall, and it was from a different script, and then it was rewritten. So
Okay.
I quite like that because it's a bit of a throwback to a Walter Hill film from 1979 called The Driver. Um,
Right.
and then he made Only God Forgives.
Which is my favorite by him. Full disclosure.
That's not a shock because it's the least favorite film, and I
It's also
hated.
set in Bangkok, to be fair.
Yeah,
So there's also
I
that personal
hated
element
that
of it.
movie.
But I think in terms of comparing the two, I really don't think there's much that sets Only God Forgives away from Drive. To be honest,
Really?
Drive might have the better soundtrack.
Oh,
That might be hit. Honestly, maybe that's me having more beef with Drive. Nicholas Winding Refn was actually going to be my pick instead of Edgar Wright, but I wanted to go with a bit more of a spicier take. But like, I don't know. I thought Only God Forgives was decent. I thought it was pretty
no,
good.
I loved Drive. Did not like Only God Forgives, and
What's your
anything he
take
did
on
wrong.
Neon Demon?
I didn't watch it.
Uh,
Yeah,
the movie. It is like it's very pretty. but all of his movies are. Like
Yeah.
he makes very pretty but empty movies. Is how I would put it for Nicholas Winding Refn.
Let's see. What's the next one? So, from a creative point of view, now, what films do you think have been overlooked for, like cinematography, music, performances, direction, that sort of deserve a reappraisal or a revisit?
So I so the films and the sort of bracket they exist within is still relatively quite new. I think it's only really existed in the last 3 years. But I would say that what Harmony Korine is doing currently under the Edgelords sort of like studio that he's with at the moment,
Yeah,
the two films that have come out of that, Aggro Drift and Baby Invasion, I really like them. And to me, I guess it's because I am watching them through the lenses. They're more like absurd visual audio sort of experiences. Baby Invasion effectively plays out like a GTA 5 live stream with a dubstep soundtrack onto the back. And I'm not gonna lie, that's not a lot of people's idea of what a good movie is, but he just takes it, he amplifies the stupidity of it all. And it's just something that I have revisited constantly, massively because the guy who does the soundtrack for it, Burial, is one of my favorite artists. He's like a electronic DJ, and he does the music for Baby Invasion. I love that. But then you've got Aggro Drift, which is all shot through um, an infrared lens, and it creates this almost sort of. Are you familiar with the term vaporwave?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it creates like an almost sort of like the first vaporwave movie in that it feels like a nostalgic accounting of an old action movie. It's got Travis Scott of all people in it. And he sells what he does really well, but obviously this is a movie that's more on the visual, it's more on the
yeah,
vibe, it's more on the atmosphere. So whilst I can appreciate that these aren't necessarily pushing what cinema is. It is pushing what cinema can be. Harmony Korine has said some things like we're losing cinemas are losing to streaming and like iShowSpeed is like the new Andrei Tarkovsky, and I wouldn't go anywhere as far as that. But like I kind of was saying about the cinema, about how I can go and see a Neon or A24 art film and then go see Spider-Man 5 or whatever.
yeah,
I'm glad that I've got these films that sort of exist in a weird space between online digital entertainment and what a movie should be. Harmony Korine, he's not like he's a veteran of making movies that kind of piss people off. Um,
yeah,
and some of his older films are also some of my favorites. I think Spring Breakers is one of the best satires on sex and violence, specifically within youth culture in
yeah,
recent years. And I think Gummo is almost fucking disgusting. But it's one of those more like disturbing films that's like not a horror, but it's sort of reminding me about just how dingy and
yeah.
uncomfortable life can be. But again, I'm coming away with something as opposed to just sitting there and watching a movie. So yeah, those would be my picks. I really do think that they've gone underappreciated simply because we don't really know what to do with them yet. We don't really know how to categorize these. We don't know if Edgelord and the sort of content they create, because I'm doing a lot of like music videos with rappers like Blade and Young Lean. We don't know if this is just going to be a generational trend that dies off and is replaced in the next few years, or if it's going to move places in what we consider cinematic entertainment. And frankly, I just want to see how it goes. I just want to see how it goes. I've enjoyed everything I've seen. I've got no reason to doubt the vision. And yeah, that would be my pick.
That's an interesting pick. I mean, with Harmony Korine, you got just got to look at where he came from at
Mm-hmm.
the start of his career. It's like the New York
He
skate
was a
scene.
child when he wrote
Yeah,
Kiss, like
yeah,
younger than both of my brothers. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
That's crazy to think about.
From so with kids especially, obviously being a Larry Clark film as well, but it was written by
Mm.
Harmony Korine. I mean, that film was based on the time that he spent in the skate culture and drugs and stuff as a
Yeah.
teenager in New York before he went to film school and on all that jazz. So you can see that like the influence that that period of time had on him through his career. So obviously you've got stuff like Gummo and was it Julian Donkey Boy and
That was
um,
Dogma 95 film. Yeah,
yeah, and then
fantastic film.
Spring Breakers, like Agro Drift and stuff like that. I mean, it's all experimental
Yeah,
and it all kind of, for the most part, works. I haven't seen Aggro Drift or Baby Invasion yet, so I can't
mm,
technically comment on that. I have seen Spring Breakers. Wasn't that fussed on it, but it just wasn't a film for me. However, stuff like Kids,
yeah,
which is obviously the first film that he wrote, when that came out in 1995, I was what 12, and I was just getting into skateboarding. So
yeah,
that was like aimed at me, even though that film was an 18 and it was about essentially about HIV and drugs and stuff like that, not
yeah. Of
necessarily
course.
about the skate culture of New York at the time. But that was a film that
I
was
think,
aimed at me. So
yeah,
watching
I think
something
that
like
sort of
that,
just represents what I really like about him is how, when when you would have been closer to my age,
mm,
younger even, these films that he's made are the sort of like new ground, very much of its generation
yeah,
films. But he hasn't stopped, and unlike a lot of directors that try to get older and get more cynical, he seems hyper fixated on staying young because he seems to have this connect to younger culture. Like, it's not like Travis Scott is just in the movie because it's a big name. The film did fucking dick. No one's seen it.
mm,
He's mates with Travis Scott. He's friends with Travis Scott. He's friends with these people in the cultural zeitgeist, and he's always trying to fuck about with it. And I can't help but respect that because every step of the way, he's made something that, whether or not it's the best thing in the world, it's always something to talk about. Spring Breakers, to me, there's sort of a metatextual element to that makes it work so much, particularly with the main three being all former like Disney stars. Like that, obviously, when you kind of it's a weird way to watch films when you're kind of comprising them of their real life elements as well. But I think there's no rule saying that that can't be done, and he's just gone and done it. So
yeah.
more
I mean,
power to him. I can't wait to see what he does next.
no one else is going to make an action movie with an inverted camera. So
Yeah, no, and I'm glad someone is out there doing that. Because it's a lot of fun. It's a really fun visual experience.
so, given your personal taste in movies, what film is a guilty pleasure that people might not associate with you? Please don't say
So
Twilight. Please don't say Twilight. Please don't say Twilight.
I'm not gonna say Twilight because I've officially watched Twilight enough times where the ironic enjoyment of it is just completely gone for me, and it's just fucking torture to watch. But I recently found out it is my third most rewatched movie since getting Letterboxd. So it goes Under the Silver Lake, Four Lions. Both of them are like some of my favorite movies ever, and then Twilight. Just 'cause I've seen it with so many different friend groups. I've seen it with my girlfriend. I've seen it with people from like once I was just catching up with people who were like, "Hey, let's watch a bad movie," and we stuck on Twilight. So I don't know, maybe that exists to me, but I went through my 5-star films, and this isn't a guilty pleasure because I've got no fucking guilt over it whatsoever. But I think the biggest outlier to the films that I give 5 stars is "But I'm a Cheerleader," which I absolutely adore to the end of the world. It is so funny, and there are so many just little things about it, little details of things that are just happening in the background, or again, more metatextual elements. Casting fucking RuPaul as a conversion therapist is just incredible. It's just absolutely incredible. Obviously, I just said obviously, I am LGBT. So there is a certain sentimentality that comes to a film that's about a sort of heavy subject matter pertaining to the community, but it isn't miserable. It isn't sad. It doesn't even end badly. It ends on a really optimistic, sweet note. It actually kind of gets me a bit choked up at the end, but it's never out of sadness. It's out of, man, it's so joyful. It just brings you to it. And I just think it's one of the best comedy films ever, frankly. And I was just doing a massive spiel on Lars von Trier. If I had to keep all of his films or But I'm a Cheerleader, you could say fucking goodbye to Lars von Trier. I don't care anymore. That's such a good film. I absolutely love. But I'm a cheerleader, so I'll go with that.
That has a 39 Metacritic score on IMDb.
I'm a cheerleader does.
Yeah,
Get fucked.
but
Really?
that's just a Metacritic score. It's got a 6.8 out of 10.
Yeah. What's it got on Letterboxd? It's gonna be higher than that, surely.
I mean, it's got an interesting cast in it. Like, obviously, I've seen it, but it's been a long time since I've seen it. And obviously, look at the people who were in it, like Natasha Lyonne. Like, she's had a massive
Incredible.
resurgence, like in the last however many years,
Yeah.
with
I think
Dollface and what was the other show she had on Netflix?
Orange is the New Black, I believe, is the big one.
Yeah, that was the one that kind of kicked
Yeah.
it off. But I remember Natasha Lyonne from American Pie, which was the first place that I saw her in American Pie. And then I saw some of the earlier stuff, that not some of the earlier stuff, but like But I'm a Cheerleader and Confessions of a Trick Baby, which was Freeway 2. And then obviously more American Pie movies. And then she kind of vanished for a while and then came back. And it's like now she's this kind of cult kind of icon now, which is really cool. I mean, she's
Yeah.
been plugging away for years and years and years and years and years, and now finally with the recognition. But yeah,
My generation lover. My generation lover. And I was just looking on But I'm a Cheerleader, and I think when you compare ratings on something like Letterboxd and IMDb, I think it really shows the difference in one being
yeah,
the newer platform, because you said it's got like what, a 6.8 on IMDb?
yeah,
Yeah, it's at a 4 out of 5 on Letterboxd, which would probably put it in IMDb's top 250 if you were making like a crossover between the two. I'm not too sure, but
yeah.
no, I think Natasha Lyonne is a very underrated actress, or at the very least, she is getting the flowers that she
That she
deserves
deserves
now, and
now.
that is a
Yeah.
good thing. Absolutely, absolutely. But yeah.
Right, I've lost my notes again. There we go. Right. Question number 7. A studio executive approaches you with an offer to remake a bad movie. What are you choosing and why?
So I don't consider this a bad movie, but most people do. But my pick's going to be Southland Tales. Richard Kelly, 2006. Dwayne The Rock Johnson, Buffy, Justin Timberlake, Stifler from American Pie, entire cast of SNL. Wacko, wacko, wacko satire film about kind of like the Bush era and like post 9/11 on America and stuff like that. And how absurd it is and how ridiculous it is. And in my opinion, amplified by the performances. Like he said that he wanted to find actors to go against their niche. And like, I'm not gonna call The Rock good in that movie. What I will call him is fucking awesome, though. It's
He
not
is
good,
really
but
good in
it
it.
adds to it. It adds to it. It's like there's just the inherent viscerality to him having a gun to his head and saying, "I'm a pimp, and pimps don't commit suicide." And it's like, you were on WrestleMania a year ago. What are you doing here? But what you've got at the central conceit of Southland Tales is this hyper absurd satire that I fucking love. I love satire that isn't subtle but still very smart, if that makes sense. And I think you can absolutely take that baseline premise of Southland Tales in its relation to George Bush, 9/11, the sort of like changing cultural norms, and absolutely set it in 2025. Like, if anything, I wouldn't want to do it out of fear of just making it worse and having it lose its magic. It's a film that is so undeniably flawed, but you can't really have it any other way without it losing the efficacy that it does have. Uh, but I still like, if I personally had the money to redo a movie, I would have the most fun with Southland Tales. I absolutely would have the most fun
Would
with
you?
Southland Tales. So
It sounds more like instead of redoing it, I would want to go into the edit room and re-edit it because
yeah,
I think
sort of.
it's a little bit of a mess of a movie, even though like it works in a narrative A to B sort of way, but to get
Mm.
from A to B is like
Do you
just a
know? Do you
bit of
know
a
which
mess.
cut of the film that you
Yeah.
watched, which was the
There's
canned cut
a
or the
canned
theatrical?
cut, isn't there?
Yeah, so I've seen both.
Yeah.
And my opinion is the theatrical cut is better. Just because it does fix some sequencing issues and things seem to happen at a more relevant pace. I think could you probably trim it down to make a better movie? Maybe, but I think the sort of like air to it, the sort of like atmosphere of that film is essential. A lot of people will compare it to like everything from there's a review on Letterboxd where someone says it is like a combination of like Heat, Mulholland Drive, and End of Evangelion. And all of that is so absurd, but it's not necessarily wrong either. And I think it as just an entity of a film, I'm just obsessed with it. I rewatch it like once a year at the very least.
I haven't seen
And
it
I
in
don't
a
know how
long
much
time.
I don't know how much editing I would do. I would be very curious to see if like so I first watched it in 2022, I want to say. I might be wrong on that. I might have actually been sooner than that. But I've watched the rating get higher and higher each year. So more people are going back to it and they are
Yeah, it's
seeing
becoming more of a
shit, this
cult
was
movie now.
prescient. Yeah, I think there's like, obviously he's known for Donnie Darko, but I think you'll definitely find people these days saying that Southland Tales is the better movie.
I think with Richard Kelly, like he came in obviously Donnie Darko shot in 31 days on 31,000 or whatever it was that it cost him
Mm,
to make 31 days. Was it 31 days or 28 days? It was something like that. I can't remember. It was shot very, very quickly. Became this
mm,
massive cult success when it came out. Personally, I don't like Donnie Darko. I've never liked Donnie Darko ever since I first saw it. Southland Tales I enjoyed, but like I said, I found it a little bit to be a little bit messy. The
mm.
follow-up film that Richard Kelly did was a film called The Box with Cameron
I haven't
Diaz.
touched it.
So The Box isn't a terrible movie. It's essentially a Twilight Zone episode extended to an hour and a half,
All right,
and that
that's pretty
was the
promising.
last.
That sounds decent.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's a sci-fi movie. Like I said, it's like a Twilight Zone episode. In fact, I think it's based on a Twilight Zone episode. But then
Oh, cool.
he hasn't directed anything since The Box. The last thing that I know that he wrote was the movie Domino with Keira Knightley, which was a Tony Scott film. But we haven't seen anything from Richard Kelly in a long, long time.
I think he did talk about Southland Tales not recently, but I think he expressed interest in wanting to come back to it. I also there's a lot of supplementary material with Southland Tales that I've not touched.
Yeah.
Namely, the movie consists of chapters 4, 5, and 6. Chapters 1, 2, and 3 are on a graphic novel. I believe you can
Yeah.
access on the DVD. I sold my copy of the DVD because I'm an idiot and I shouldn't sell my physical media. I know very well on this channel not to do that. But I just think it's fantastic. Whichever way you slice it, I think Southland Tales, remove it from the context of the guy that made it, especially, and it just still stands as such a weird figure of so many different things I love about film. So
So yeah, so he's only directed 3 movies in Donnie Darko, Southland Tales, and The Box.
hmm.
But he's written he's literally not done anything since The Box. Domino actually came out a lot earlier than I thought it did. But I mean, if that's going to be his legacy, like Donnie Darko and Southland Tales, then that's not a bad legacy to have,
Yeah,
really, when you think about
it's
it.
like one of the most legendary indie debuts, regardless of if you like it or not. It's a
Yeah.
legendary indie debut, and then you've got one of the most like divisively prescient films made of the century. Like, I think it's impossible to talk about the 2000s and film and not mention it as sort of where it all melted down and collapsed on each other, and in a way that I think is just fucking glorious, really. So,
See, when I like, obviously, I'm a bit older than you, so when I
yeah,
think
I
about
was
like the
3 when
2000s,
Southland Tales came out, just so we're completely clear here. So,
um, when when it comes to like the 2000s, all of the 2000s for me is kind of like a jumble. Like I can't remember what came out, what year, what came out, what like I can't remember the movies from that period. There's ones that I do remember. So things like Collateral and Miami Vice, like the Michael Mann movies.
Mm.
And there are certain movies that I do recall and stuff. But the 2000s, unlike the 90s, where I can remember every 90s movie like that straight away, the 2000s is just an absolute jumble. So we are right. You are having a dinner party. Which two people from the world of cinema are you inviting as your guests, dead or alive?
Originally I wrote David Lynch and stretching the definition of cinema here, but Nathan Fielder. Uh, but primarily just because I would want to see how those two would interact. I don't really have much to say on that. But the other answer that I thought of earlier was one of my favorite actors at the moment, Jesse Plemons, and then an actor who I feel very much inspired both him and as well as like a generation of other actors, and that's Philip Seymour Hoffman. So I love how both of them act in their movies, and there are ways in which they're quite similar to each other. They're both very good at a certain endearing awkwardness to their characters, but they can play it in very different ways. Philip Seymour Hoffman, in something like Magnolia, for instance, he plays it very straight, very warm. Whereas Jesse Plemons, you can never fucking tell with the characters that he's playing. I think the most iconic at this point is probably Todd from Breaking Bad. But he's become one of my favorite leading actors. He was great in Begonia. He had a 5-minute scene in Civil War, and he stole the entire film.
See, that's the
He
intensity
was
that he shares with Philip Seymour Hoffman as well. That's
massively,
when you
massively.
said Jesse Plemons and then you said Philip Seymour Hoffman, I was like, yeah, I can see
You
why.
see the
Yeah,
connection. Well, I mean, in The Master, which more Paul Thomas Anderson dick sucking coming from me. He plays his son. He literally plays
yeah.
the son of Hoffman's character, and I think in a way he's almost like a better successor to Philip Seymour Hoffman than Cooper Hoffman is, to be
Yeah.
perfectly honest with you. No massive disrespect to Cooper Hoffman. His career has obviously just started. But like I would love to see how these two, who gave some of the greatest performances I've seen in a film. I talked about some of the ones by Jesse that I love, but my favorite performance from Philip Seymour Hoffman is Synecdoche, New York, which is another Charlie Kaufman film.
Yeah.
Because of the sheer emotional intensity that he delivers to that role, which you need to for. I don't know if you've seen Synecdoche, but it's quite emotive.
I've seen bits of it. I know that he builds
Yeah,
a
New
version
York
of
in a
New York.
warehouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very intense role, but he absolutely sells it, the absurdity and the humanity of it. And then Jesse Plemons would later go on to be the lead in I'm Thinking of Ending Things, which is Charlie Kaufman's most recent film. So these two actors, I would just love to put them in a room together and just start taking notes. Really, that's kind of all I would do. But yeah,
I mean, they both had kind of the same start in film as well. So Philip Seymour Hoffman, like an early role for him was in the movie Twister. He was one of the
mm,
storm chasers that was in Bill Paxton's van, and Jesse Plemons was in a big budget disaster movie as well called Battleship with
yeah,
Rihanna. He was one of the people on the ship. But then you see, especially with Philip Seymour Hoffman, as
excuse me.
his career advanced, obviously playing the best villain in the Mission Impossible movies as well. And then like The
Mm-hmm.
Master, Before the Devil Knows You're Dead, which was a film he did with
Sidney
Ethan
Lumet
Hawke,
directed it, right?
Sidney Pollack, I think.
Oh, okay. I thought it was the same guy that did Dog Day Afternoon. I could be
Oh,
wrong.
Sidney Lumet, that's the one. Yes, it was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But then now you've got Jesse Plemons as well, obviously going from playing Todd in Breaking Bad, where he's
Yeah.
fucking psychotic,
He's terrifying.
especially
Yeah.
in El Camino. Jesus Christ.
Mhm. Yeah.
But then you see him
I
again in other things. He was the next door neighbor in the movie Game Night.
Game Night. Yeah, Game Night.
Yeah, he
Oh,
was the police officer with the
good.
dog.
Yeah.
And then
Never sleep on
obviously
him.
with the bit in Civil War.
Yeah,
with the
it's
red
terrifying.
glasses and the "What kind of American are you?" That's how just like
Yeah,
that is
it is
frightening.
what people think of. I like Civil War more than the average person, I'm pretty
I
sure, but
really
everyone just
enjoyed
thinks of
Civil
that
War.
scene. I thought it was decent. I thought I don't know, it felt quite hollow, but I didn't enjoy it as much as some other Alex Garland films. But
See, for
no,
me, I like films that are dystopian and kind of push a apocalyptic angle to something. So something like a civil war in America where basically the entire
yeah,
country goes to shit. Um, like that, and what was the other one that Netflix did with Ethan Hawke? From the writer of Mr. Robot. Alex was moaning about it.
we were talking about this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I really like
I'll
that
get it
one.
up. I'll get it up. Sam Esmail. Leave the world behind.
That's the one. So any
That's great.
film that has that kind of sort of end of the world esque dystopic kind of vibe to it, I'm going to gel with no
That's
matter
fair
what. The only problem I had with that film is the casting of the president.
play. Who is it again? Because it's a known actor.
It's Ron Swanson from Parks and Recreation.
Yeah, he's
It's
like
Nick Offerman.
I've seen him from memes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Nick Offerman. He's a very funny actor. He actually was in. He won an Emmy for an episode of The Last of Us season one, where it was a two-hander episode. It was just him and another man, which he played
I heard
against
about it. Yeah,
completely against type, and it is one of the best uh, episodes of a television series I'd seen in a
my
long, long
dad
time.
said it was the best episode of TV he's seen since like Breaking Bad ended.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it was a
I need to get
phenomenal
on The
episode.
Last of Us. I want to play the game first, and then I'll
Mhm.
watch the show. But
But
it's kind of it for me.
because of his voice and how I associate that voice with Ron Swanson from Parks and Recreation, which he was in
Mhm.
7 seasons of. I cannot
Yeah,
take him serious in the role as the president of the United States of America.
no, I
But
can
I
imagine.
thought,
Yeah, that makes
yeah,
sense.
I thought Civil War was really, really good. It's probably the easiest Alex Garland film to watch. Like I liked Annihilation. I enjoyed aspects of
I'd
it.
say Ex Machina, to be honest with you, for
Ex Machina,
easiest.
I can't remember a lot about Ex Machina. It's
It
been a
feels
lot.
a lot like Black Mirror, and I think that'll connect with a lot of
Yes,
people. That I don't know. Ex Machina to me. Did you watch Men?
I've seen clips of it. I haven't
I
watched the
like
whole
it.
film.
I like it. It is not a good script. It is not a good script. What it
Mm.
is a very good horror film, or
Yeah,
like horror thriller film.
I like
So
Rory Kinnear. I'll watch Rory Kinnear in anything.
Jesse Buckley's fantastic in it as well.
Yeah.
She is very good in that movie. But yeah, no, Rory Kinnear, very very scary looking man. I can't lie.
Right. So if you could travel back in time and watch any movie for the first time on a big screen, what movie would you choose and why?
I have gone with a film that is lost upon me, and I feel like that's just my fault, and I just need to give it another try. But I'm going with 2001: Space Odyssey, because I have seen it twice, I think, and each time I leave being like, I can understand why what I'm looking at is very good, but why am I so fucking bored? And so to me, I really like to put myself in the moment that film came out just to see if I would get it then. Because there's no reason why I shouldn't like it. I can handle a slow movie. I love pretty much every Kubrick movie that I've seen, and I've seen a fair few of them. And I don't have anything against sci-fi either. Like obviously very different forms of sci-fi, but Dune, Interstellar, I understand both of these are very modern as well, but like I have no beef with any of the film elements that I guess would turn someone off from it. I should, by all records, love this movie. Uh, and I one thing I will just absolutely say is visually is absolutely incredible and so much
Yeah.
uh, iconic visuals have just come out of it. I think it'd probably be one of the greatest films to see in a cinema, regardless of what time you're seeing it in. But the time that it came out must have blown people's minds. Must have just absolutely like melted their brains.
So I've seen 2001: A Space Odyssey about 4-5 times, and I first saw it when I was like 12, 13, something like that. Did not understand that film at all. But the more I've watched it, the more I've kind of worked out my own interpretation of how that movie is meant to run. So I look at it as it's kind of like bus stops on evolution.
Okay.
Whereas
I can see that, yeah.
So the first monolith is with the monkeys and stuff like that, the dawn of mankind. And then the next one is where they find it on the moon. So that's where like we have evolved from apes to landing on the moon.
Yeah.
And then the next step then is interstellar travel, which is why the Discovery picks up the signal of the giant monolith in space, which is why they then head towards that. And then that is where he travels through the portal type of thing, which is, for my kind of way of looking at it, that was them traveling through interstellar space through a wormhole. And then the ending with them in the him in the bed looking at himself being old, and then obviously the space child is the next step in evolution from leaving a flesh and blood body to becoming an intergalactic being of which
beyond
so it kind of works out.
humanity.
Yeah, it kind of works as bus stops along the way of evolution. That's how I worked it out. I might be
You're making me.
wrong.
You're making me want to watch it again. To be honest with you,
like I think it's a phenomenal movie, and if you ever do watch it again, watch the second one. There was a movie called 2010, the year we made contact.
Okay.
Yeah. It was
Oh wait,
made
no,
in
I've heard of this.
Yeah.
I think. I didn't realize they were connected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
the year we made contact.
It essentially follows the like 10 years later, obviously. Well, 9 years later. It's not made by Kubrick. It's made by a director called Peter Hyams, who was like a cinematographer and a filmmaker and an editor and stuff, and made a lot of really fun movies in the 70s and the 80s, and some fun stuff in the 90s as well. But he wrote and directed 2010, the year we made contact, which is it's a good follow-up, if not on the same level as Kubrick, because fucking Stanley Kubrick, and it's definitely worth checking that out. But watch 2001 again with trying to think of what the monoliths are. You'll have a better understand. That's just my understanding of 2001: A Space Odyssey.
No, fair enough. But I think the only other there's another big sci-fi film I kind of want to watch just because they normally get talked to the same breath. And for 2001, with the West, you have Solaris with the East, and Tarkovsky's a director I've watched a few things by. I've watched Mirror, I've watched Stalker, and again, they were films that I was watching, and I'm like, I can appreciate the brilliance here. I just don't think I'm at a place as a person yet where I'm going to enjoy them. And I found that that's genuinely helped in a lot of it. There's been a lot of films that I didn't love when I first watched them, and then I purposely waited a few years to come back to them. I keep trying with Taxi Driver. I keep giving Taxi Driver a watch like every 2 years, and it just never hits me. I love Scorsese for what it's worth. I enjoyed the conversation you guys were having about Gangs in New York in the last episode, for instance. But for me, Taxi Driver is the one where I'm like, I don't get this. I just don't understand it. Or not that I don't understand it. I definitely understand what it's going for. I don't understand why people have it ahead of King of Comedy or Raging Bull or Goodfellas is untouchable, really. But
again, it's like film is always going to be subjective. It's no one's ever going to agree on the same thing. Like that was the point of this conversation is to, like, we've spoken in work, we've spoken about certain things when we've had a chance to. This is a good place to be able to have an actual chat about movies
No,
without
definitely.
someone going, "Oh, can you pull up a Biden report?"
No, I
So,
definitely
like,
get that.
for me, like, Taxi Driver was probably the first Scorsese film I saw.
Right, I see.
So
Might have been mine as well.
I tend to gravitate more towards that because I hadn't seen Goodfellas or Casino or anything like that
Right.
before I saw Taxi Driver. But I'm also a huge fan of Paul Schrader's 70s like work.
I need
So
to watch more. I really want to watch Mishima. I really want to watch
yeah.
Mishima.
So he made there's a couple of films he wrote. So he wrote Taxi Driver, then he wrote a film called Rolling Thunder, which was like a revenge film.
Yeah,
Quentin
I've
Tarantino
heard of
actually
it.
named a production company after Rolling Thunder. It was like Rolling Thunder Pictures. He also made one called A Band Apart, which is after a Jean-Luc Godard movie. Was it a
God forbid
Truffaut?
Tarantino have an original idea. I love the
Yeah,
guy, but God forbid he
yeah.
has an original idea.
But he'll Schrader also wrote a film called The Yakuza, which was a look
Okay.
at. It was set in Japan. It was a look at an American who gets involved with the Yakuza in the late 70s and stuff. It's a fucking great movie. Really underrated. It's got Robert Mitchum in it, and it was co-written with Schrader and his brother, who is a Japanese expert, an expert on Japanese culture and Japanese history. So there's a lot of authentic Japanese like stuff in there.
Yeah. Have you seen First Reformed?
No, it's one of the ones I haven't seen because he had a
Very
run of
good.
films with From the Canyons to Dog Eat Dog to another Nick Cage movie which got taken away from him, which was
Oh,
produced by
shit.
Nicholas Winding Refn. That were they weren't good movies, and so
Okay.
obviously I kind of dropped out of the Paul Schrader thing.
You
But
don't
then
want to,
obviously,
after so many duds, yeah.
yeah. But
Makes
with
sense.
the First Reformed, and then he did the Gardener, I think it was
Yeah, and then the card counter is
the
somewhere
Card
between
Counter,
them.
which are back to the type of films that he was doing in the 90s with like Light Sleeper and
Okay.
stuff like that. But yeah, I will get around to watching it. I fucking love Ethan Hawke as well. Ethan Hawke's probably
First
one of my
Reformed is
favorite
incredible.
actors.
It have you seen have you seen much Ingmar Bergman? Specifically Winterlight, that film in
No, I
particular.
haven't.
It A lot of people have said that it effectively just takes Winterlight and runs with it, and I mean it kind of does, but it very much does stand on its own. It's a very relevant movie as well. Like it deals with like someone described this film as generally dealing with like existential crisis is like a very core theme to a lot of his movies. I think First Reformed is like a very 21st century incarnation of that.
Yeah,
Channeled through like the lens of this old like Bergman movie, but very much about the sort of dread that people feel in an existential stance today, basically. But no, massively recommend First Reform. I think it's fantastic.
yeah. I'm probably, like I said, I love Ethan Hawke. I'll watch him in anything, even the shit films that he's in. I'll watch. Apart from Boyhood, I can't. I just don't have the patience in me to watch
Not
Boyhood. I like
seen.
Richard Linklater, but
I've not seen any of them. I haven't seen
no.
the Before trilogy. I haven't seen Dazed and Confused, and I feel like I should. I feel like if I'm gonna watch
Dazed
any
and
film by
Confused
him
is good.
first, it'll be that one first. School of
Yeah,
Rock, actually, he did that, right?
he did. Yeah, he did
Yeah,
that.
I've seen School of Rock.
It's like, what was it? He did Slacker, Dazed and Confused, School of Rock,
There's a
the
film he had
Before, obviously
recently
the
out.
Before trilogy. Say again?
I think there was something he did with Glenn Powell recently. I don't know if it was meant to be
Oh,
any good.
Hitman
Yeah. It was
on
on Netflix.
Netflix.
I remember that much.
Yeah.
Some people said that was pretty decent.
Last question. We are question number 10, or have I missed one?
I'm up to number 10 on my notes. So.
Yeah. Do you have any deep cut recommendations that people may not be aware of?
Yeah, I think I found one. I went through films that I watched this year for the first time, and one of my favorite filmmakers that I've discovered this year is a Canadian director called Matt Johnson. Are you familiar with any of his work?
No.
So Matt Johnson got his start with an online web series called Nirvana the Band the Show, which focuses on a band called Nirvana the Band trying to get a show at this specific venue called the Rivoli, but they always just go completely off script. They always abandon the plans. The web series is very much online early sort of humor, whereas eventually it got picked up by, I want to say, Vice. They
Mm.
turned it into a full show where basically they start with a central conceit, but they take the sort of like Sacha Baron Cohen approach to the storytelling, where the real reactions of the people they get in the public will inform where the story takes place.
Yeah.
And that's where the TV series of Nirvana the Band the Show goes. They've got a movie coming out that has been released in the festival circuit. It's gotten really good reviews. I think Neon's picked up distribution for it, so hopefully
Right.
that'll be coming out soon. Uh, the other big one they did was Blackberry. Matt Johnson did a film called Blackberry, which he is also in, and it also stars Glenn Howerton from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, who plays Dennis, who's one of my favorite characters of all time, and he plays the CEO of Blackberry, and he plays him very straight
I
and
know
very
exactly who you're
serious.
talking about.
Yeah,
They did the dirty.
so that's the film I am going to recommend. It's The Dirties.
Yeah.
I think. Well, have you seen The Dirties? Is the first thing I want to ask then.
No, I remember when there was because Kevin Smith was the one who
Yeah,
championed that movie, and I think ended
he
up going
also
on as a
got Nirvana,
producer.
the band, the show on Vice as well. So Kevin Smith's a big part of their story. But The
Yeah.
Dirties is, especially if you're already into film, uh,
Yeah.
it is a very good satire on not just like like a sort of high school drama situation, because this film goes to some very dark places towards the end,
Yeah.
but film is so ingrained into it. It's a very hyper referential movie. It has a very meta element to it of the premises these two kids are gonna make a movie about stopping their school bullies and calling it The Dirties. And it plays very much with what you're watching is real, what's within the movie and whatnot. But The Dirties, the one thing I will say going into it, for anyone that hasn't seen anything by Matt Johnson before, is it's not going to look and feel like a usual movie. And if you don't really know what it is that you're looking at, like Nirvana the Band, the show in particular, it's gonna come across as sort of just mad nothingness. But when you're looking more into it, you realize, oh no, there's definite methodology within the
Mm.
madness. And I think The Dirties is definitely him taking the style that he built up with Nirvana and channeling it into a very, very good drama comedy. It's one of the more underappreciated films that I've watched this year. It's a film that, like, if people are coming for recommendations, it's something I kind of feel more obligated to, just because I know it's not going to be watched by a lot of people. But yeah, The Dirty's fantastic movie. That would be my last recommendation.
Yeah, I remember when the whole thing about that came out because they shot it very, very cheaply. But it was,
Mhm.
if I remember rightly, the whole point of it was to essentially kind of spoof Elephant, the Gus Van Sant film that had
Yeah,
recently
hmm,
come out,
massively,
which was
massively.
fucking awful film. I know it was
I
quite,
agree. I agree. I think
yeah,
Elephant's garbage. So
yeah.
I'm glad you agree, because everyone that I know who's seen that film really likes it. I think it's fucking dreadful.
It's the majority of Gus Van Sant stuff is kind of not that great.
Hmm.
Although he's got one coming out which is apparently really good called Dead Man's Wire with
I've heard. Yeah.
what's his name from the It movies.
Bill Skarsgård.
Bill Skarsgård, that's the Badger. And what else did he do? The Sea
What
of
I will
Trees.
say, not heard of that.
No.
What I will say about Matt Johnson and the upcoming Nirvana the band, the show, the movie is last year when the whole Kendrick Lamar and Drake beef was happening, there was a shooting that occurred outside of Drake's house. But in recorded news footage of the aftermath of that, you can see Matt Johnson directing in the background. This was just on like a news channel. Anyone who didn't know
Yeah.
who he was, like, who's this guy? And that alone has me so excited to see what the hell they're going to do with that in the movie. It's very much alternative comedy, and a lot of people are just not going to resonate with it. It's just not going to be their thing, and that's completely fine. I, for one, love it though. I think he is one of the best directors working today.
It's like IMDb have got it at 8.7 out of 10 and a 86 meta score, so that's going on my watch list.
I'd recommend it. I'd really recommend the web series in particular.
Yeah.
The TV show is great, but there's something kind of like special to how limited it was, but also how much they're able to stretch the definition of fair use out to some extreme fucking territories. And it's fantastic. It's like, it's someone that feels very strongly about like fair use and more people having access to art in order to criticize it, to take inspiration from it, to be educated on it. I think these guys are absolutely the other guy. I can't remember his last name, but Matt and Jay are the two characters in Nirvana the band, the show, and they're also their real names. I think they're both just absolutely pushing the limits as to what can we do with everything that's already been made so far and turning it into something new. And I think they're just figureheads for that at the moment.
Cool. Well, you have answered all my 10 questions. So we'll have a quick look at the remainder of the comments. Jim said he meant Cornetto because he's rewritten it down the bottom. But Baby Driver to me is a masterpiece. Oh, cool. I'm going to have words with you, Jim.
That's cool. Like, I can't, like, if someone really likes it, it's not something I'm going to be like, well, actually, you're wrong. It's just not something that resonates for me. Like, I totally understand why someone would like Baby Driver. It's Baby Driver is a musical with no singing and dancing. That's why I love it so much. See, if I want to watch a musical, I want singing and dancing. So there you go. That's just where we're different,
Well, gentlemen, I have to run. We'll watch the rest on replay. Great show so far. Have a great night, guys. Cheers, Jim.
Thank you very much.
Hope you're enjoying your rest from the internet. And the last one is from Izzy Doyle 6487. Twilight is the best movie ever made. Please get serious.
That's my girlfriend right there. And if I could just address her quickly, no, you're the reason why I no longer like Twilight, because we've watched it so much together that it drives me absolutely mental. And I love you to pieces, but no, Twilight is garbage, and you need to get over that. I'm really sorry. But, yeah, thank you for allowing me to do that, Pete.
Wicked. Well, Jesse, thank you very much for joining me tonight. It's been an interesting chat.
Me. No, it really has. I'm sure there'll be follow-up conversations about everything we've talked about. It's always a pleasure to talk about movies. I think if that's one thing I'll say comes out of the job that Pete and I both do, it's that whenever an excuse is made to talk about movies, it really just livens up the entire atmosphere.
It does.
So thank you really much for having me on this. It's been
you're welcome.
I've actually been really excited to do this. So yeah, thank you so much, man.
Yeah, no worries. Well, I'm going to sign off now. Thanks everyone for watching. We haven't had the biggest audience, but we will get more on rewatches, which is what I usually look at more than the actual live viewings. Like the last episode is just over 205 views, which is really good. Considering it's been up 2 weeks and it is like 2 hours long. But yeah, I want to thank you, Jesse, for coming on, having a chat with me on Movie Mind, answering my fantastically cobbled together questions that I did one night. And
the questions were great. If this was one night's worth of work, fucking hell, man, these were great questions. I had so much. I was like spending a good half an hour writing down what I wanted to say.
So, it took me about 20 minutes to come up with these. I answered them myself because I posted a video and I answered them myself. And when I look back on them, I think I answered them too hastily. I didn't really think them
Yeah.
over. So I might do another video where I re-answer them and just put my actual answers, like more thought out answers on there.
Yeah, no, definitely, definitely.
Yeah, cool. So thank you for joining me. My name is Pedro. This is Pedro's Movie Cavern. This has been Movie Mind with Jesse, and I will see you all again soon in probably 2 weeks, because I'm going to try and do this every 2 weeks. So thank you. Bye-bye.
Take it easy, guys. Have a good night.
Peace.